Hello, Kentucky business educators. We're not at the Galt House. We're not in Louisville. We're not skipping sessions to go to Steinmart. I don't even know what to say. And I'm coming to you from my son's nursery that I used to really like to be in until I had 794 Zoom and team meetings in the last 3 months. Isn't this the craziest time? But you know what? You chose to be here today, didn't you? You know why? Because you believe and you know that you are still going to teach. It may be weird in August, but you're going to teach because that's what business educators do. My name is Jennifer Stubblefield for you folks who don't know me. I've been around since dirt. In fact, I retired 17 days ago. Yeah, it's great. And what am I doing? I'm working. You know why? Because I love business education. KTRS allowed me to be here today, not as a business teacher, but I'm here today as your KBEA, SBEA membership director. And I'm excited to still be in this industry. And now that I'm retired, I'm hoping I even have a little more time to work with the best teachers in the whole United States. They're in Kentucky, and I know them. And I'm so excited to continue this walk with you. Some of you, for whatever reason, may have never been able to come to summer conference. In this virtual world, although it's kind of inconvenient, maybe it's allowing you to have this opportunity. And some of you may be brand new business teachers. I am so excited that you chose to do this. You won't regret it. I want you to network, chat, get to know people, reach out, email. The best way to get started in your career is through networking. So excitement is in the air for you, and I'm glad you made this decision. So this is the part, I suppose, where you're supposed to introduce yourself, which is awkward, but just to let you know, connect a little bit. Those of you who had a senior this year, yeah, me too. And I was right there with you. Wasn't it so weird? All those things you had in mind that was going to happen with your son or daughter at graduation. Yeah, it didn't happen. But I'd like to think that we learned something from those seniors. Yeah, they complained a little bit, so do we. But you know what? For the most part, they moved on. And we can do that too. Let's, as normal, learn from our students, right? August is going to be odd. Period. End of sentence. But if we stay together and lean on each other, we're going to get through this. And so I just wanted to kind of throw that out there as a little motivation before we get started. Something else about me, I just found out I'm going to be a grandma. I'm going to rock that gig. You need to be aware of that. I'm so excited. Retirement couldn't have come at a better time, right? So anyway, enough about me. This presentation was originally made for the certified conference with Certiport back in June. And KBEA asked me if I could do this type of presentation again. And I said, yeah, but I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. We business teachers are smarter than that, right? So I've critiqued it a little bit to make it very personal to Kentucky. But as you go through, you'll see a lot of the same things that I did for them on a national level because it applies to us. And I'm excited that you chose to tune in. I'm a firm believer that certifications change kids' lives. Period. I believe that. I've seen it turn those kids that you think, oh my goodness, do they even speak? Make a 180 in my classroom because of certifications. They open doors for students that otherwise would not be opened. And I'm excited today to speak to you about that. So thanks for tuning in. Stay with me through the end. There's going to be a quiz at the end. Pay attention. And just a shout out to everyone for being here today. I mean, I even miss James. James, I miss you. James Murray, where are you? Are you okay? And I really miss Vanessa. Vanessa, we're not going to get to hug. Oh, Vanessa. But you know what? We'll be together soon. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm excited to share with you some ideas about making the perfect employee. My question for you to get started is, what makes the perfect employee? Is it because they're technologically awesome Everything they do on the computer is great. They're a problem solver. They're efficient. They can fix things. They don't break things. They just get technology and they're able to, be very independent. Is that one part of the component? I think so. Could it also be the perfect employee is someone who's an unbelievable people person? They have communication skills, not just oral skills, but those interpersonal skills, those soft skills that we hear about all the time. They know how to carry themselves professionally. They have poise. When they go to meetings, they're the ones that people just want to sit around because they know how to act in a group. They have etiquette. They know that in the middle of a Zoom meeting, you don't pick up your cup and sip on it and rattle it in the middle of a Zoom meeting. They just have all of these wonderful verbal and nonverbal communication skills. Every single deliverable they create that goes outside of the company, it's just perfect and error-free and well thought out. Is that communication segment? Is that what makes an employee perfect? I think so. Could it be another one is that they're just business savvy? They know their vocabulary. They know the difference between a debit and a credit. They understand what it takes to bank. They know what it means to have a brand. They understand risk when you talk about opening a business. They understand working as a team, as a partnership. They understand the economy. Could it be that that is what makes an employee perfect? Or could it be that the perfect employee is technologically savvy, an excellent communicator, and they just know a lot about business? Could it be we education institutions and teachers, could it be that we've been a one-trick pony for a while? Could it be that we've just been producing these awesome technological skilled kids or students? Could it be that we're missing the boat sometimes? We do not need to stop producing the highly technological skilled kids that we're producing. But could it be that we have other areas that we could add to that? What if we produced technology, communication, and business savvy kids? I think it would be the perfect storm. I saw that movie when it first came out and I literally got seasick. I had to go out because it was the perfect storm. I remember that vividly. The perfect employee. I think if you put all three of those together, it's going to produce someone that any employer would covet. Anybody would be crazy not to want to hire them. I want to encourage you today to think about adding to your program. Maybe you're just doing one of those three components. I don't know. But think about how you can expand. In this presentation, we're going to look at all three of those different certifications for our students. We're going to look at how I implemented them into my classroom, pros and cons, and how I funded them. And we're going to have a little fun along the way because I'm a firm believer that if we're going to teach this, we better know it. So buckle up and hold on. We're going to look at creating the perfect employee with multiple certifications in multiple areas. I hope you're going to enjoy it. So let's get started looking at the first hurdle in making this perfect employee. I hope that in no part of this entire presentation do I communicate that Microsoft certifications are any less important than they have ever been before, just because I'm asking you to add some more to them. No. Microsoft certifications could not be any more valuable than they are right now, today. This pandemic that we've had has testified to the fact that our students, they did pretty well using the technology at home, didn't they? Many of my teaching friends were in a full panic about, oh my goodness, how am I going to teach this? I don't understand how to use Zoom. What do you mean I've got to make videos? And they didn't understand, but business and tech teachers, we were going, This is chapter 6 on the unit I've been teaching for 7 years on virtual meeting etiquette. You know, this was our time to shine, as well as our students' time to shine. I had so many teachers texting me saying, Jennifer, thank you so much for the fact that in, whatever class, your students are helping the rest of us. Your students are leading the way. They didn't even have minor issues, unless it was bad Wi-Fi because they live out in the boondocks. They could not help that, okay? But I'm letting you know right now, Microsoft skills, I think it is absolutely something that is not only a national skill set, I think it's a world skill set. All types of countries use this product. I do want to say this, and the following is my statement, so blame nobody but me. I've been taking students in Fortune 500 company tours for years, whether it be in Toyota, Ernst & Young, Lowe's Hotels, wherever I take them on these, inside tours to get to know what it looks like in the corporate world. I always ask, now, does your department, does your company use Microsoft Office? And the look I usually get is, yes, of course. Never once have I taken my students anywhere and I ask, do you guys use G Suite? And I get an answer of yes. Never once. We are doing the right thing by producing kids that have skills in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook. I truly believe it. Now, there's a special niche of people that do Access. I'm not one of those. But I'm letting you know right now, the Microsoft skill set, it's alive and well. It is in demand. I've got some signs on your screen that show you all of the tests that are available. With the 2016 tests and the 2019 tests, there's a little bit of difference, not a lot, just to be honest. For you folks that haven't made this switch to 2019 yet, it's not that much difference. A lot of 3D graphics, some new Excel functions, and some morphing technology and slide zoom technology on PowerPoint, but really they're not a lot different, just a little more advanced in some of the cool things they can do. So if you've not made that move yet to 2019, I highly encourage it. The tests are out. They've changed the naming of some. There's now associates and experts, which is no big deal. But investigate the Microsoft certifications if you have never. For you folks that have been doing it for years like I have, I don't have to sell it to you. You know the power behind these. So on the next slide, I want to talk to you a little bit about how I do it in my class real quick and see what you think about that and see if you can incorporate this into your classroom. Have you any idea how hard it was to find that logo in the bottom right corner of your screen? Raise your hand if you remember MOUS. The mouse certification. That's what it used to be called, the Microsoft Office User Specialist. And it's been around a long time. I wanted to proudly bring back that logo because you're going to hear me sometimes call it mouse certification because I can't help it. I want to talk about those logos. You do know that recruiters, they know those logos, right? And when you incorporate this program into your classroom, those kids are going to have those logos on their LinkedIn profile, their e-resume, their electronic portfolio, their badging that they're going to be using. Those logos represent something. And you can take a look at the faces there of my class and realize that those kids are happy. They worked hard for those certifications. Building a program in your school doesn't happen overnight. It took me years, but those kids signed up for those classes because of what they heard from the other students, not necessarily something that teachers or the administrators or the counselors said. It's because the Microsoft students in our school are held with clout. They're a bragging rights group, and I make sure that happens. When you incorporate this into your program, confidence building is going to happen. This program, I cannot say enough about the recruiting that it does for your program all by itself. So I encourage you to think about putting this into your program. I'll tell you quickly, At my school, everyone takes digital literacy as a foundational entry program class. And it kind of lets kids know if they want to proceed or not. And then the next class is Microsoft certification. It is a requirement. The prerequisite is to take digital literacy first. And then they come to Microsoft certification, where we hit the ground running. Teach on a block schedule. So I teach about 12 weeks of Microsoft Word. I teach a lot of things hard and heavy. And then when I get to Excel, which I do next, I do not reteach graphics. I do not reteach password protection. I do not reteach so many things that I already taught on Word. Why would I want to do that? The kids don't want you to do that. So I can usually cover Excel in about 4 weeks. And then by the time I get to PowerPoint, we're only about a week on PowerPoint. And we take the test after each one, the Word test, Excel test, the PowerPoint test. That is how I do it in my classroom. Now, the Outlook certification test I do in my leadership and administration class. But that's how I do it. If you have any questions after this presentation, you'd like more details, trying to keep this short. If this were a workshop, we'd be doing a lot of hands-on stuff right now. You'd be my class, and I'd be having you writing if-then statements in Excel. But if you have questions, let me know. This is a big baby of mine. I'm a cheerleader for this particular program. If you have any questions, I'll be sure to get back to you. One of the things that I want to really discuss with you before we move on is your administrators. We need to discuss them. Don't you love talking about them? One of the best things you can do in your community for this Microsoft certification program is communicate with your local business leaders. Take a look at the graphic I've got on your screen that shows where Microsoft skills land. Look at number 1 skill, by the way. We're going to get to that with the communication skill certification, right? But look at number 3 and then at the bottom, PowerPoint specifically listed because of the communication skill set. You need to communicate with your local industry, all your local businesses, wherever you live. Find out how many of them use Microsoft products, how many of them use Outlook every day for their communication, how they use it for calendars to manage their time, how often they use Word, Excel every single day. You need to gather that data and you need to get it to your administrators. Not because they're trying to maybe cut your program, but maybe because you're wanting to, show them why it needs to continue. Funding and education can be a fickle thing, can it not? I encourage you to be the squeaky wheel that stays greased. The next picture there is the median salaries for people who are Microsoft certified. You need to get that into the hands of your administrators, your board members, your school officials, not because, again, they're trying to threaten your program, just kind of a for your information graphic, because what I want you to understand is that you need to remind everyone around you why you're doing what you're doing with your Microsoft certification program. Never, ever underestimate the power of marketing and visibility. And when those kids get certified, put their pictures everywhere. Social media, the newspaper, get them in whatever avenue that you need to make sure that you communicate with your local industry, that you are preparing students with the skill set that they need. So that is my little soapbox moment for you as you think about adding this program or expanding this program at your school. Okay, another certification that I would like for you to consider when creating a perfect employee is the newest, I think, a certification offered by Certiport called the Communication Skills for Business. What is communication? I think it's in its original form. It's a message sent and a message received, right? But there's a lot more to it. There's oral communication. The way you present yourself in webinars, just like this, in front of a crowd, in a small meeting, in the elevator, informally, when you think no one's looking, you're communicating when you're talking to those people in that elevator. Lunches, all kinds of oral communications, whether they be formal or informal, they are critical to the success of an employee. Nonverbal communication, professional dress, poise, the way you carry yourself, all types of things that you do that are nonverbal but communicate a lot. And we all know what we're talking about. And then there's also those written skills. And then there's listening skills. So many people are really bad listeners. They hear, but they don't listen. There's a difference. For many years now, many recruiters have been telling us we're sending these kids out with these technological skills, but then they don't have the ability to communicate. I'll never forget, I was sitting in Atlanta at a conference years ago, and this lady was up talking as she introduced the first time I ever heard the word Bluetooth. That's how long ago this was. And she said, I remember this, she said, you know, when I talk to Bill, he says all the time, we need people who can communicate, who just aren't tech savvy. And it took me a minute to realize she was talking about Bill Gates. But anyway, that's another story. Communication skills for business. They're critical. And now there's a certification that's out there that your students, your employees can use to prove that they're pretty communication savvy. So look at the screen. I've got some facts there for you. An average of large companies average $62.4 million a year lost because of poor communication. That number is staggering. Small businesses say an average of $420,000 a year lost because of bad communication. You know, email blunders, typos, an extra zero on the end of a figure, and the client holds you to it. That is critical. What are we going to do to fix these communication skills? Well, recruiters know, teachers understand it. We've got to start teaching them more. And this certification couldn't come at a better time. Let's take a look at it a little deeper. So what is the Communication Skills for Business exam? What does this certification look like? If we were in person right now, this was supposed to be a 90-minute workshop, and we would be on our feet right now doing all kinds of fun activities where I would show you how I teach this in class, as well as just role play with you a lot so you can see what's on the test. That's kind of hard to do here in my office alone in Kentucky. So the best I'm going to be able to tell you is that this test is 50 minutes, between 35 to 50 questions, depends, various versions of the test. But the test covers what I think, you can look at your screen there, I put the 6 domains on there for you, all of communication. It really does. It covers nonverbal, verbal, written, or all of these skills. And it gets pretty specific. Some of the things that are covered, manners and etiquette. The difference between enunciation and pronunciation when you're up on your feet, when you're communicating on the phone. It talks a lot about professional dress. A lot of business deliverable questions are on there. What should itineraries look like? What should they include? What's the name of the document that tells you what's going to happen in this meeting today? An agenda. All of those terms for these business deliverables. There's a right way to send an email. There's a right way to send a letter. There's a right way to send bad news. All of those written communication skills where those blunders happen that cost companies millions, it sounds like, right? Cultural faux pas. A lot of sentence structure. Another thing is social media. A lot of social media is 21st century current right now, and it's on this test. What is the format of the test? It's multiple choice, but also scenario based. I loved the questions where you can drag and drop things. Like it'll say drag and drop the following 4 things in the order that should have happened during this customer service experience. And it talks about how you should have communicated better or whatever, and you have to put them in the right order. The test is very interactive. So it's definitely not a boring test. It's very, you have to stay on your toes, but it covers a wide range of communication skills. If someone can pass that test, I'm telling you, it's very, very indicative of their ability to be communication skilled. I gave this test to a lot of my students, and it was pretty clear. The kids who passed it are the kids who, I thought in their life they present themselves this way. They're great listeners in class. They're excellent writers. And we had studied this content, and some of the ones that in class are very non-communicative did not do well on this test for obvious reasons. That proved to me that is a weakness. And so as a teacher, I got a lot of good feedback from the scores on this test. So that's kind of the makeup of the test. If you have any bigger questions, you can contact your Cert Report rep or me. I'll be glad to help you. But also know that the objectives, the actual objective domains, are listed on the Cert Report website as well. So I hope that gives you an overview of what's on the actual test. How do you prepare people for this test? How do you get your students ready? I think a lot of us know that a lot of our parents are doing a really good job. Some of our students come to us so mannerly, and they've got some just really great etiquette skills to begin with. I'm a big FBLA advisor, rah-rah FBLA. And when I travel with these kids, it's always so obvious whose parents have done a great job of teaching their kids etiquette, how to act in the middle of a conference and things such as that. But there's still a huge skill gap because not everybody has those kind of parents. And sometimes you have those kind of parents, but the kids are just hard-headed. Let's admit it. So once they're mature enough to start learning these skills, I have learned that in my school, seniors are really best prepared for this test. In our department, we have, I think, 9 business classes that we offer. And by the time they're seniors, a lot of these kids have had 5, 6, 7 business classes. And so we offer this to them. I did not say mandatory. If you're in my Microsoft class, you're taking that test. But if you are a senior and we feel like you have really become well-rounded in your courseware, this content is embedded in every course in our department. And so if this is sounding interesting to you and you're thinking, how could I do this at my school? We didn't necessarily offer it in a class. We have relationships with these kids, and we sent them an email and said, hey, there's another certification out there that we know you're prepped for. You've had digital literacy. You're Microsoft certified in 3 areas. You have accounting. You understand QuickBooks. You understand, you've had a lot of multimedia design. You understand infographics. You understand all these different design features that would be in part of the communication world. And then you've had our administrative support class where we teach people to be leaders. We set those kids down for this test, and the results are pretty incredible. They really are. And so that's how we embed it into our school. And I hope that helps you think about how you could do it. Another thing that you need to understand is that if you need courseware to teach this, if it's not embedded in your classes, or if this is a whole class, a business communications class, what a concept, right? Wouldn't that be ideal? To my knowledge, there is only one. I may be wrong, but I think LearnKey is the only software company out there right now that has a course that's directly aligned to the test. It's divided into various modules. It's very interactive. It's really fun. I hear the author is from Kentucky. Rumor. But anyway, I'm going to show you a video now, a clip that kind of explains or shows you what part of the course would look like. So if you're interested in a course that is directly aligned to communication skills for business, contact your Cert Report rep, contact LearnKey, and they can tell you more. It's ready to go, canned and ready to go. So take a look at that and see what you think. An office professional who chooses to communicate by a letter, the good old printed letter, they're choosing the most formal type of communication there is in the world of business. Now, letters have lots of purpose. They can be used to send congratulatory messages such as, congratulations, you got the promotion. Letters are also part of the bad news world. Sorry, you're getting the demotion, or maybe you're being let go from work. That's often done in a letter format. Also, the letter is part of the job hunt. The job hunt can be exciting because you have to have that cover letter that goes on top of your resume if you hand deliver it, or as an attachment in the email with the resume. And that cover letter is the formal way of saying, hi, Here's my name. Here's my resume. The cover letter is your handshake when you're doing this job hunt. Letters also are formal in the fact that they have lots of rules. Now, we've talked about how email are very informal. Other types of documents are informal. But letters are very formal. They actually have a lot of formatting rules. And you, as an office professional, if you send them out in the incorrect format that's the standard for business, you could be sending a message that says, I don't know the rules, or I don't care about the rules. I'm going to march to the beat of my own drum, and I don't care about the standards in this business industry. That's not the message you want to send. So we need to think about some rules with these letters, look at the format of the letters, and we're going to start with something that is a soapbox moment for me. What does your signature look like? Letters are always signed. Does your signature look like something that's about second grade level? Or do you print instead of sign? Think about the message that you're sending with your signature. And also, never, ever in the world of business sign anything with a pencil. It can be altered, it can be erased, right? You need to sign it with a blue or black ink pen. No red, no pink, no teal, blue or black ink pens. So let's take a look at a digital version of what the letters actually look like. Now follow along and take notes, and also note that in your workbook there'll be examples of this. So the next hurdle to create this perfect employee would be the Entrepreneurship and Small Business Certification. There's a story that goes with this. Actually, I've got two stories. I'll try to make them brief. But the neatest story, I think, behind this certification is, it's actually on the Certiport web site. You can go find it. But it's about the state of Louisiana needing a lot of welders. So they created this big push for teaching welding for the oil rigs, and they did it. They produced a ton of welders. Well, as it turns out, many welders are independent contractors. They're self-employed. They run their own business. They are their own business. A few years later, the state realized they still had the same shortage of welders. What was going on? Where are all these welders we're producing? Well, while they were great at welding, they did not know how to run a small business themselves. So they had to go find other jobs in other sectors because operating as self-business employed people, they couldn't do it. So this certification is one of the things that the state of Louisiana has really pushed, because now they have a lot of self-contracting welders here doing really, really well. Another neat story comes out of a country where their leaders are producing certification students in entrepreneurship and small business as a national push. And that's in Egypt. It's the neatest story that's out there right now. This is not an American thing. This is not something that's just for one country. This is a worldwide global economy. And business is business. Am I right? So this certification serves all types of interests. Anything is a business. That's what I've always told my students. I don't care what you're going to go into, it's business. And so this certification has been really fun for me to incorporate into my classroom. On the next slide, we'll look at what is actually on the test and details, and I'll explain how I incorporated that into my particular classroom. Okay, so what is this ESB test about? It is a test that covers various segments of running a business, starting a business. And if you look at the graphic on the screen there, I've given you the 6 big segments. And this test is tough. It really is. And it's not for your beginning class. It's not for a class straight out of the gates. This test is hard, and it should be, because if it's not hard, then the certification is worth nothing. So this certification proves to employers that these people have some vocabulary. They understand things like a business plan. They understand banking. They understand all kinds of financial documents. They know what a W-2 is, and they know the difference between a W-2 and a W-9. So I want you to think about what group at your school would this test fit perfectly into. I incorporated this into my classroom after I heard about it because I wanted my kids to be more competitive than the other schools around. And I wanted the kids to stand out because it is a very competitive job world out there, scholarship interviews. And so when I looked into it, my first reaction was, that's a pretty tough test. And then I took the test and I went, yes, indeed, it is a difficult test. The test is designed to be culminating at the end of the road, at the end of the pathway. So at my school, these are seniors that have scored very well in multiple business classes. For example, a student who's never had accounting or had a personal economics class, they will not do well on this test. So it's important to know who you ask to sit for this test. Again, not mandatory. I made it available and multiple students took me up on it. And when they passed, they became a big deal. I made sure every organization from the board to the janitors to everybody in the break rooms to the newspaper, social media, everybody knew about it because they deserved it. I want you to think about where it could go into your program. And again, more information on the exacts can be found on the Cert Report website. If this were a live conference at this time, I had a great activity planned that we were going to use to see how you can teach this in your classroom. You can, again, email me if you have questions, but explore the ESB. It is something that could really, round out the final cog in the wheel for this perfect employee to be so knowledgeable about business plans, finances, and running their own business. Okay, you've heard 3 amazing programs that can change your students' lives. You may be offering one of those. You may be offering 2 of those. You may be offering all 3 of those. And you've been listening to this presentation going, yeah, right on, because you agree. My question for you is, what's stopping you from adding to your program in the upcoming year? This new virtual world that we're possibly going to be teaching in for a while couldn't be more well suited for a time for you to, start one of these other programs. With the Communication Skills for Business, the course is ready to go. It's ready to go. It's all virtual. What about entrepreneurship and small business? Could you add that as another component at the end of the pathway for your best and brightest business students? And if you aren't doing Microsoft certification, if I haven't convinced you to do it yet, give me a call. It won't take me much longer. Are you going to hire someone who has all 3? You bet you would. If you had to have 2 people in an interview and you couldn't decide between, and one had a load of certifications to prove their skill set, not just that their resume says they do, they can prove it with these certifications, and the student who doesn't, who would you give the scholarship to? Who would you hire? I think the answer is pretty obvious. I hope that you consider adding something to your program to create more perfect employees, perhaps even a perfect employee. I know. You're thinking, where's all this going to come from, Jennifer? Money. I'm going to tell you how I do it, and if it will help you, great. Number 1, thank goodness for Carl Perkins federal funding. If you ever have the chance to defend that money and to contact your elected officials about that money, you fight for that money. Carl Perkins will pay for site licenses to test your kids. Period. End of subject. And you remember what I said, be the squeaky wheel if you need to be. Number 2, get your parents on board. When parents start hearing that a lot of these certifications are tied to college credit, such as the ESB, at my school, getting 3 Microsoft certifications leads to 6 hours of college credit when you finish the pathway. When you start talking college credit, your parents listen. So get your parents involved. Number 3, there's nothing wrong with a little commitment from the kids. At my school, we had class fees. Every kid paid a certain fee to take the class. And so those fees were often used to pay for some of these certifications. For example, I'm just making up a number. If a certification for a kid was $50, well, maybe I got 20 out of it for the class fee money, and then the student wrote me a check for the other. A lot of times I got businesses to sponsor us. There's nothing wrong with going to a former student who runs a successful business and saying, hey, I need your help. Could you help me help students? And then you plaster that business's name everywhere in social media. And before you know it, this happened to me, other businesses see what you're doing and they'll call you and say, hey, I'd be glad to help, because they see all the great media that you're giving them. Fight for your students. It's hard work. It is. They're worth it. As a rule of thumb, I really think so many webinars are boring. So what we're going to try to do right now is keep you engaged, and I'm going to give you a test. If you've seen me present before at Certified, I usually transform the audience into my classroom. And so that's what I'm going to try to do today. Creativity, we're going to try it. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to ask you to become a student. And I want you to get out a piece of paper and a pencil. You cannot use your cell phone. We're going to take a test. If we're going to ask our students to be skilled in Microsoft Office training, communication skills for business, and entrepreneurship in small business to make this perfect employee, how would you score? So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you 10 questions, and I want you to answer them honestly. Don't look them up. Do you know the answers? And the answers will be at the end of the presentation, but I think it will give you a good insight as to what the content of all 3 of the tests would look like. And if someone could score a perfect 10 on this quiz, pretty well rounded, right? Which is what employers covet. Get your paper, get your pencil, and pay attention. Stay focused. I may call your name. Let's go. Question number 1. Microsoft Office Smart Art is included in the scan when you spell check a file. True or false? Demand for this product for number 2 is really high, but the supply is low. Nobody can find these. What's going to happen to the price of this product in a free market economy? Number 2, Fred, pay attention. Eyes off the dog. Listen to the question. Get it right. What's going to happen to the price? All right, question number 3. Many businesses are set up as partnerships, having 2 or more partners to share the responsibility and liability of operating a business. What is the name of the type of partner who often supplies financial backing, but who is not always involved in the day-to-day operations of a business? What is the name of that partner? Number 3. Number 4. The consistent name, logo, slogan, jingle, and designs that are used to identify a company or a business is known as its blank. Number 4. Number 5. All Excel functions and formulas begin with what special character? Number 5. And question number 6. Can PowerPoint presentations be saved as MP4s within the PowerPoint dialog box when you're saving? Can PowerPoint presentations be saved as MP4s in the Save As dialog box? Yes or no? Number 7. What is the standard top margin for almost all business deliverables, whether it be letters, agendas, itineraries, meeting minutes? What is that standard top margin for almost all business deliverables? Number 7. Question number 8. When delivering bad news in the world of business, there is a certain manner in which we should do it. There's a sequence that's known to most professionals on how to deliver bad news. The question for you is on number 8, what is that sequence when we have to deliver bad news? Question number 9. When introducing people of different ages in the world of business, what is the etiquette on whose name you say first during the introduction? Question number 9, ages and introductions. What's the answer? And number 10, the finale. As a standard rule in business, what is the maximum length for a resume? No matter how important you are, what is the maximum length for a resume? Number 10. So how'd you do? How'd you score? Here's the answers. Number 1, no, Microsoft cannot spell check SmartArt. No, the answer was false. Number 2, if the demand for a product is high, but the supply is low, what's going to happen to the price? Of course, the price rises. Number 3, what's the name of that partner in a partnership that really doesn't show up a lot, but gives some financial backing, maybe some advice, but they're not in the day-to-day operations? Silent partner. Number 4, what's the name of that consistent logo, colors, slogan, jingle that makes up a company? Their brand. Number 5, all Excel formulas and functions begin with what character? Equals. Number 6, can you save a PowerPoint presentation in the Save As dialog box as an MP4? Yes, that's how I'm doing this. It's easy, it's perfect, so easy. Number 7, what's the standard top margin for almost all business documents? 2 inch. 2 inch. Number 8, how do you deliver bad news in the world of business? What's the etiquette on that? Folks, the answer is you hide the bad news. It's called the bad news sandwich. Good news, bad news, good news, right? Always end positive, always start positive, but the bad news in the middle. Number 9, when introducing 2 people of different ages, whose name do you say first? You always say the oldest person's name first. So if you've got a 90-year-old and a 10-year-old, you say, Mr. Johnson, I would like to introduce you to Peter. Peter, this is Mr. Johnson, our CEO. And number 10, as a rule, what is the suggested length of a resume? 1 page. I don't care how important you are. 1 page. 30-second scan. 1 page. So, how did you score? Did you make a 10? If you made a 10, take your hand and good job, because you're well-rounded and you're basically a perfect employee. Craig Bushman, I would like for you to email me your scores. Don't forget. Well, thanks for sticking with me today. I hope your wheels are turning, that you're thinking, I could do that. Why am I not offering the ESB to my seniors? What am I doing? Why am I not doing Microsoft certifications, the #1 software in demand? And why am I not giving something to give my students an edge up in those communication and soft skills? I hope that you do not allow administrators to get in your way. I hope you do not allow funding to get in your way. And I hope you always remember to think about what those kids really need and branch out. So if you have any questions, be sure to ask me. Also, if you look at the screen on the website, there I've put a lot of my intellectual property. 27 years worth of stuff is out there because I just, I'm here to share it. We're all in this together. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. And then I also want to remind you to join your professional organizations. We need you. You need to be a part of your professional organization. It's only $20 a year to be a member of KBEA, and you can hop on over to kbea.org right now and renew your membership. And folks, we're giving away $500 again this year, and you can't win it if you're not a member. So be sure and renew. And just, a heightened warning to you that if we're going to be doing this online learning, we're going to be online with our students more than ever before. Liability insurance is critical to cover you professionally. And NBEA gives you $250,000 worth of that just for being a member. So please contact me with questions, but check out nbea.org to join or renew your membership for NBEA. So I hope that after this entire session is over that we can connect, and I hope you'll always remember that the kids need you, folks. They haven't seen you since March. It's going to be very easy to go back and be negative, but folks, we've got to be positive for our kids. You may be the only positive person in your whole department, your whole wing, the whole building, but the kids will sense it. And folks, they miss you. They may not say it, but we all know they miss us and they need us. Be the positive force in those kids' lives. And never, ever forget, they won't care how much you know until they know that you care. Care for those kids, as I know you will. I hope you have a great rest of the conference and I hope you have a wonderful summer.